The Blue Jays are 6-12, coming off a World Series appearance. And somehow, the conversation around this team has already shifted from contender to chaos. But here's what nobody's talking about. While the losses pile up and the lineup sputters, 3 players on this roster are quietly building MVP-caliber cases, and one of them might be doing enough to steal votes from a guy on the New York Yankees who ESPN just decided belongs in the AL MVP top 10 conversation. That guy is Ben Rice. Now look, I'm not here to tear down Ben Rice. The man can hit. He's slashing .356, 500, .756 through the early part of the season, 4 home runs, 14 runs scored, 12 RBIs. That's a scorching start by anyone's standards. Last year, he put up 26 homers, 74 runs, 65 RBIs in his sophomore season. He's for real. But here's the problem with putting Ben Rice in your AL MVP top 10 right now. And it's not subtle. It's not a complicated sabermetric argument. It's pretty simple. Ben Rice doesn't play against left-handed pitching. He's a left-handed batter, and when a southpaw takes the mound, Rice either sits or gets pulled late in the game. That's just how the Yankees use him. Last season, he had 401 plate appearances against right-handed pitchers. Against lefties, 119. This year, same story. 48 appearances versus righties, only 10 versus lefties. That is not an everyday player. That is a platoon hitter with elite production in his lanes. And platoon hitters, no matter how hot they are in April, don't win MVP awards. They don't even finish in the top 10 unless the rest of the field is completely underwhelming, because the whole point of MVP is value, and if you're sitting on the bench a quarter of the time, your ceiling for value accumulation is structurally capped. So that opens a door, and 3 Blue Jays are walking through it. Let's start with the most obvious one. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is doing something this April that doesn't make the highlight reels because there are no home runs attached to it, but if you're actually watching the at-bats, you understand what's happening. The man is controlling the strike zone at a level that's borderline unfair. He's slashing .321, .446, .434. 1 home run in 64 plate appearances, yeah, that part's true, and his power will come, it always does. But a .446 on-base percentage tells you everything you need to know about what pitchers think of him right now. They don't want to give him anything to hit. They're pitching around him, pitching carefully, throwing him chase sequences and hoping he bites. He's not biting. His WRC plus sits at 152 through the early season, which ranks 3rd in the entire American League. For context, WRC plus is normalized for park and league, and 100 is average. 152 means Vladdy is producing 52% better than the average MLB hitter right now, with 1 home run. That's how good his contact quality and plate discipline are. Here's the thing about Guerrero and slow power starts. It's a pattern, and it's not a red flag. It's just how he's built. Last season, he didn't hit his first home run until Game 19. He still finished with 23 on the year. The power isn't gone. It's warming up. When it arrives, and it will arrive, the combination of what he's already doing at the plate plus 25-plus home run power is going to make Vladdy one of the 3 or 4 most compelling MVP cases in the American League. The narrative around this team's struggles doesn't change what he's doing individually. If anything, it makes it more impressive, because he's putting up these numbers in the middle of a lineup that's stranding runners at an alarming rate. The Blue Jays rank 28th in baseball in runners left in scoring position per game, 4th in runners left on base overall. This offense is leaving runs all over the field, and Vladdy is still producing. When the lineup wakes up, and lineups like this always eventually wake up, his counting stats are going to jump, and when that happens, the MVP conversation around him is going to get loud fast. Ben Rice doesn't have this ceiling. Rice's value is tied almost entirely to his performance in a specific matchup subset. Vladdy plays every day, hits in the middle of the lineup, and is already one of the best hitters in the league by rate stats, even in a cold power stretch. That's the difference. Now let's talk about Daulton Varsho, because this one's a little more complicated, and honestly a little more exciting if you've been watching his last week or so. Varsho is a complicated player to evaluate because the health question never goes away. 2 straight seasons with multiple IL stints. Last year, 71 games played. That's it. But in those 71 games, the man hit 20 home runs, scored 43 times, drove in 55. On a per-game basis, that's elite. The issue is, the per-game rate doesn't matter if he can't stay on the field long enough to accumulate the counting stats that MVP voters actually look at. This season started rough for him. Through his first 11 games, Varsho was 6 for 40, 3 runs, 1 RBI. That's the kind of stretch that makes you nervous, especially given his injury history, because you start wondering if something's off physically. But then the switch flipped. Over his next several games after that slow start, he went 7 for 18, 2 home runs, 4 runs, 5 RBIs. That's not a slump anymore. That's a hot hitter finding his swing. And when Varsho gets hot, he gets genuinely hot. The power comes in bunches, his speed on the bases becomes a weapon, and he starts making plays in the outfield that remind you he's one of the better defensive outfielders in the game. The MVP case for Varsho is more conditional than Guerrero's. It requires him to stay healthy. Full stop. If he plays 140-plus games and replicates even 80% of his rate production from last year, we're talking about a guy who finishes the season with 25-plus home runs, 75-plus runs, 80-plus RBIs, playing premium defense in center or left, and contributing on the bases. That is an MVP-caliber season. That is a top 10 finish. That beats Ben Rice's counting stats almost certainly, because Rice simply doesn't get enough plate appearances against a full range of pitching to keep pace. The question isn't whether Varsho is capable of it. The question is whether his body lets him do it. If the answer is yes, he's a real threat in this race. If he ends up on the IL again, and I hope he doesn't, then this conversation changes. But right now, 2 weeks into the season, the signs are pointing in the right direction. The third name here is the one that requires a little more context, because on the surface, saying a starting pitcher can steal MVP votes sounds insane. But stick with me. Kevin Gausman is pitching like an ace who has something to prove. 3 starts, 17.1 innings, 2.08 ERA. And then there's the number that actually tells the story, a 26.2 strikeout-to-walk ratio, 26 strikeouts, 2 walks, in 17 innings. That is not normal. That is special. The command of his four-seam fastball and his split finger is at a level where batters are chasing pitches they have no business chasing, and Gausman is in the 97th percentile in chase rate at 40.8%. His ERA is 2.8. His expected ERA is 1.75, sitting in the 96th percentile. The underlying numbers are actually better than the surface numbers, which is the opposite of what you want to see. It means he might actually be pitching even better than his results suggest. Now, does a starting pitcher win the AL MVP? Almost never. The last non-Shohei Ohtani pitcher to take home an MVP was Clayton Kershaw in 2014. That year, Kershaw went 21-3, posted a 1.77 ERA, and struck out 250 batters. That is the standard for what a pitcher has to do to steal MVP votes from position players. Can Gausman do that? Let's be honest about it. The ERA part, absolutely. If he keeps pitching at this level over a full season, a sub 2.0 or sub 2.50 ERA is on the table. The strikeout totals are trending right with that pace. The win total is the variable he can't fully control because wins depend on run support, and this Blue Jays offense is currently one of the worst in baseball at converting opportunities into runs. They're scoring 3.80 runs per game, 24th in baseball. You cannot go 21-3 when your offense is stranding runners in scoring position at the rate this team is doing it. But here's what Gausman can do, and here's why he still factors into this MVP conversation, even if the award itself is out of reach. A Kershaw-type season, sub 250 ERA, 200-plus strikeouts, 15-plus wins, elite command all year, puts Gausman's name in every Cy Young discussion, likely at the top of it, and gets him consideration from MVP voters who are open to recognizing dominant pitching. He doesn't have to win the award to steal votes from Ben Rice. He just has to be undeniably great, and the voters who want to reward pitching excellence will factor him into their ballots. And if Gausman is getting MVP consideration, that's votes Ben Rice isn't getting. So you've got Guerrero Jr., who is already one of the best hitters in the AL by rate stats and whose power surge is a matter of when, not if. You've got Varsho, who has the tools to put up an all-around season that checks every box if he stays healthy. And you've got Gausman, who is throwing the ball at an elite level and is building toward a potential Cy Young campaign that bleeds into the MVP conversation. All three of them have a legitimate case to outperform a left-handed platoon hitter on the Yankees who doesn't face a quarter of the league's pitching staff. The Blue Jays are 6-12 right now, and yes, that's a problem. But the individual performances that are going to define this team's season are already taking shape. The players who matter are showing up. The counting stats will follow, and when they do, some of those Ben Rice MVP votes are going somewhere else.